Good morning. Good morning. Hope everybody's having a great weekend so far. We're going to go ahead and continue with our market reviews. I was busy for a couple of days, didn't get a chance to do them. However, it's really nice to see a lot of our expectations playing out and just kind of do a little recap, beginning with our majors, which, if you guys have been following this series of videos, our majors are going to be USDT dominance and Bitcoin. That is what I refer to as majors. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'll show you guys a couple of thoughts here on the market. If you guys remember last week, we were talking about the possibility of seeing a reversal back up for USDT, which was gonna, of course, cause lower prices. So we kind of seen that play out. We had this small accumulation here that was not the clearest accumulation, but it's interesting price behavior because if you guys have heard me before mention what I refer to as advanced range theory, we can assume that these lower time frame accumulations can be used to create bigger ranges. So now we transition from this low time frame range that we had in here. We had this range high that created through this ugly distribution process. It was not a very clear distribution at all. You guys probably remember as well that I was talking about not having big confluences too long. However, there was some sort of distribution in here that now created this range high. And now we're seeing this very interesting price behavior where you can see actually price coming down, deviating this range low in here, and going exactly into this POI that we had marked on the chart for a few weeks now. Now, it's interesting price behavior because this low time frame range transitioned into a higher time frame range, and now we have left some clear levels here where we can expect potentially Monday, Tuesday, if we see a slow pull down, price to come down here, take these levels, and in confluence with these levels being taken out, if the structure breaks back to bullish for USDT, at this point in time, we can look for shorts across the market. And have said that, we can start to pre-plan, okay, so if this were to happen, what is going to be the next step of what else we're going to be looking for? So at that point in time, if that were to confirm, we're going to be looking for shorts. And then once we come up here to our technical target, we can see if we create a bigger distribution to actually aim for higher price across the market. Or maybe price comes for this high here and we start a new range in here that is going to be a higher time frame distribution. That can be another scenario. So we're going to keep an eye open for those scenarios to see exactly what happens. Something that I want to do moving forward is I'm actually going to start saving these drawings so we can always refer to them back and we can see exactly what we had planned out and how it played out over time. Because it's always important for consistency, right? To see exactly what our thoughts went and if they actually happened or not. So moving forward, I'm going to be saving a lot of these ones so we can come back to them on different streams and we can see if our plans actually played out or not. If you guys do have any questions related to USDT dominance or anything on those lines, don't be afraid to let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you guys as well at any time. Now, let's move and let's go to Bitcoin, our next major. And this one, the price behavior, it is actually not 100% reflecting into USDT dominance, which is actually really interesting. And I'm going to show you why. So on Bitcoin, we actually nailed this range over here, the price behavior. It didn't really provide us with any entries for the trades that we want to take. But regardless of that, we actually nailed that expectation on the market, which is always nice to see. Now, we had this low time frame range here that distributed to create the range high, went to this range bottom in here. Then we transitioned into this bigger range here that we talked about a few times already. These levels here, they were not the clearest levels to short, so we didn't take any short positions. But that this distribution gave us a move down on Bitcoin to this level here that we were watching. And then we had this very aggressive move down, and we had this sort of ugly accumulation processing here that provided this mechanical bounce all the way higher. And now we're seeing some sort of low time frame distribution here. But of course, this price action, it is not as clear. So this is not a setup that I will be willing to put my money on and potentially trade. Now, a few seconds ago, I mentioned that this behavior is really not matching USDT dominance, and this is what I mean with this. If we actually overlap the USDT dominance chart in here, we are going to notice that they actually have now different pivot points, which is actually really interesting to see. And these are going to be my thoughts on that. So if you guys go to this range low in here on USDT dominance right here, it's actually this range high on Bitcoin up here, right? However, if we now go to this deviation in here that just happened today, 3 in the morning, we can see that for Bitcoin, that was over here, but we never took this range high. So at that point in time, what I want to see is I'll want to see USDT dominance come down lower so Bitcoin can take this high. And once we get that, that's actually going to be a bigger confluence for altcoin shorts. So ideally, let's actually take this off the chart because we don't really need it anymore. This already played out. I'm actually going to leave that in there. Ideally, what we want to see on the following days is we want to see price push up again and take out this high. That'll be something really interesting to watch. I do have an alert setting here at this liquidity level, so I'm going to get alerted once that happens. And this can open doors for distributions across the board. So I'm going to be interested to watch to see if we can have this play out. Of course, at this point in time, we don't even have a first deviation yet versus we already have it on this one. We're going to keep an eye. If this deviation here is too deep, if it goes too down, then what I'm looking at, it's potentially repulling my range from here to here and just move the range to a different one. So I'm going to keep an eye on that as well. However, as far as confluences goes, once Bitcoin approaches the range high and this approaches the range low, that's already an environment where it's more favorable for altcoin shorts as well. So I have said that in preparation for that, looking to potentially short out in the near future, I have pre-planned a couple ideas on some coins that I am looking at. The first one being Solana. Solana looks like this, which is a little bit interesting. I want to explain why. You guys probably heard my thoughts on Solana on the past couple of sessions that we did reviewing the market, of how Solana is actually very bearish in a high time frame, where you had this massive distribution from March 2024 to beginning of 2025 that actually played out perfect. And then to make it even more bearish, we had this market maker supply level here, where on September 2025, when the market corrected once again, when Bitcoin made an all-time high, actually had a lower time frame distribution here, and then another lower time frame distribution over here. So Solana chart has been extremely bearish for over a year. It's not a chart that is favorable for long right now. It's been a very bearish chart. So therefore, we have expected this rotation down. Now we had accomplished that rotation down. It has played out, and we had this continuous downtrend for a long time now. And now, for the first time, we saw some sort of bounce from this naked low in here. We explained the naked low last time we spoke, where you have this point in here that front ran liquidity levels, and at the same time, there's nothing supporting this low, right? There is no accumulation, there is nothing, it's just one wick and price bounced. Now, what I mean when I say Solana at this point can be counter context to short, it's this. We had a continuous downtrend. It is the first time that it bounces, and then we have a lot of liquidity above. So we're looking to short Solana. We have to be very careful and have very proper confirmations. And the confirmations can potentially be something like this. Ideally, on a perfect world, we want to see Solana come a little bit higher, come to this red box in here, and go lower. And here on the bearish break, that is when we short and we take this lower. If we happen to actually get these, we're gonna take 70% profit in here, and the remaining 30% will have to be collected under this point. We would expect this load to be taken out. And then depending on the behavior of price, once we take that low, we're gonna get an accumulation. So we start to pre-plan, okay, if this plays out, what's gonna be the next move? And then we can look at potentially pulling a range from this low to these highs and see if we can actually get some sort of accumulation from these points. So at this point in time, we're gonna be looking for something like this on Solana. Now we just gotta wait for the confirmations to see if this is something that plays out or not, and see if we can adjust our plans accordingly depending on what happens. Now, there are also other levels on Solana which we could use for a short as well. For example, we had this bearish order blocking here, but it's not the best because we have liquidity above and we had this also POI on top. So this is not as strong as a level. The biggest confluence level is going to be this red one up here. So we're gonna be watching for shorts over here. So I have my alert setting here at this POI, and I'm gonna set another alert at this liquidity level here. And now we wait. Next chart that I was looking at, it's SUI. Very similar to Solana, where you have this low in here, nothing defending this low, it's just one naked low. You have liquidity up, which is not the best, so we have to be very careful if we were to short. And we had a similar situation here. We had a couple different levels. First, you have this bearish blocking here, and then you also have this bearish block up here that is also backed by some levels as well. So I'm checking both sections. I have alerts set specifically here to see if we can take this and go from there. So similar situation, we're still in the process of making our second tap, so we need some more time to build a third tap, and we'll see what happens in there. And then I was actually monitoring Hyperliquid. There was actually a short entry here last night that I was not able to take. It was around 8 p.m. my time. I was having dinner, on my way to dinner. But it was an interesting short because technically on the higher time frame, or like on the mid time frame, Hyperliquid is on some sort of distribution. The technical target will be this range low. You do have some liquidity above, but expectation of order flow should be to come a little bit lower. And you were developing this really nice stop in here, where you had this range high, deviation, extreme liquidity sweep over here. This sweep created this bearish blocking here, and you had price come to this block with really nice price behavior. What the price did into that block, it actually created a low time frame distribution right there, where you had this range just like this, with your 1, 2, and 3, and then you have your bearish break, and you can see a quick expansion after that bearish break. So it was a really interesting short setup. I was not able to take it live because I was a little bit busy last night, but we were monitoring for that, and it was actually a really nice short. Now, price went down after that, but now we deviated these lows. You have a low in here. It was an equal low with this. We deviated, and now we're bouncing up from it. So I am not 100% convinced, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm potentially looking for a short in here. We get it. But the reason why I am not 100% convinced on this is because of this. Since we had this slower move down, now we do have all these highs here that are left. So this can make it very, very vulnerable for something higher to create a new range and then go lower. So maybe that happens, we can pull a range from this high and see if we can build a new range in here. So I'm gonna start keeping an eye on this as well, based on the fact that USDT actually took the range low. The context now is more favorable for shorts and for longs, but of course that means that we have to find the best possible setups to maximize the return on our possible trades. Those are the main coins that I'm watching for now. I also took an eye at the AVAX chart, where you have something similar, where you had this range high, low in here that is unprotected, and you have this deviation here. But then on this one, we have something that is not as attractive to me, and it's we have a bad return to zone. This boxing here is not the best price action in the middle of the range. So ideally, what I want to see, if I were to actually consider shorting this, I would like to see price come down here spend some time in here, then go up again, and then take it for lower and short here on a bearish break. That'll be something more interesting to watch for. So as of right now, this just is more time. That is the conclusion. It's more time is needed for these charts. And then you have Link, which has similar price behavior, where you had these a small distribution here that created a range high. You have your range low here, deviations, and now you have some levels here to look for retest for shorts. However, on this one, you have something very similar to Avalanche, where this section of the range, you have this very aggressive price action in here. It's actually highlighted this way. You have this very aggressive price action in here, so that makes it less attractive for potential shorts. So ideally what you want to see is you want to see price come down and then grind up slowly, and then we can short it upon confirmation. And you want to see something like this with a nice liquidity curve. So unless we get those scenarios like that with those proper confluences, I am not going to be interested in AVAX and Link, but something to keep an eye on. And then this coin over here that I've been watching for the past few days, it's also very close to taking out this range high. And this one actually, it's leaving a really nice liquidity curve. You have all these stacked lows over here that are gonna add to the fire once the price reverses. So I'm keeping an eye on this one as well. And those are gonna be kind of the major plays that I'm watching for now. Of course, all of them need proper confirmations. And just to recap, I would like to see Bitcoin take this high. I wanna see USDT take this low again. And upon proper confirmations, we have some really nice opportunities for shorts on the near future. That is the update for today, guys. If you guys do have any questions, let me know. I'll be active. Talk to you guys a little bit later.